Hi everyone, I'm Riva, and this is World of the Mirror Theory or WAAM Theory, and we're going to go into a particular example of something that many of you may have experienced and how WAAM theory applies and how you can use this concept of understanding your reality to navigate life a little more easily with a little more flow. So the particular topic we're going to go into is frustration at work. And I'm going to talk about an experience that I had recently as an example to help you kind of see and piece together how this can play out in your own life. Now, with WAAM theory, it's talking about how, your own reality, the experience you have in life is actually educating you about your own inner truth, your own inner reality, your feelings, your emotions, your beliefs, and so much more. And your filters of what reality is, it's shaping how you experience it, the good experiences, the bad experiences, the ones that are more pleasurable, the ones that are more sucky, and how you can change your external experience and interaction and engagement and how you react to things, and how you can improve your experience in life through understanding this mirror that is around you all over the place. So being frustrated at work is something that just sucks. And I also want to just give one more side note. Every time a person is going to approach understanding their own personal mirror, it can be different. So I'm going to give you a flavor of what this mirror can be showing you. But there are many flavors and there are many interpretations. And when I work with people one-on-one and I kind of have the context of their life experience or their experience in an event, I can give them a better judge or understanding of what the mirror might be trying to tell them or show them. But I wouldn't say that you could broadly apply this to every single situation of being frustrated, because there are many interactions and experiences we'll have in life in our mirror where that experience could be telling one person something about themselves, a belief they hold about themselves. It could also be showing another person the belief they have of another person or of how they think other people should be. And even deeper still, there could be some deeper beliefs that you're not aware of that you hold about yourself. And those are those subconscious or unconscious beliefs that are very valuable to recognize. And so there's so many layers to what it is that you are believing that's causing this experience in the mirror that you're seeing. And so think about the caveat that I'm sharing one way of interpreting this, but there are many more ways. And depending on you and your experience, it might be a little bit different. So what I'm saying may not be 100% resonant. So take what resonates, leave the rest, as I like to say. So what I'm going to share about is the experience of being frustrated with a particular coworker or colleague. Maybe there's some project issue going on. Maybe there's something where you feel like they're being unfair. They're not doing something you're asking them to do. And what I started to observe in my own experience was I was recognizing frustration arising in my body. I was getting a more tense, more tightened, more constricted breath, more antsy. And as I observed myself, because it's so critical to really become the observer of who you are and observe your experience. So when you're in the moment, if you're just angry and frustrated, you don't notice that you're angry and frustrated. But if you can observe that you are feeling all of these bodily sensations and these thoughts arising of I'm frustrated right now, that's your key to starting to break this whole thing down to understand what's really going on. Because when you get frustrated, when you get agitated, your voice will change, your tonality will change, your body expression changes. So you'll be more tight, more frustrated, more closed off. You're not going to be this open, relaxed person. And whether you have your camera on or not, if you're virtually meeting or if you're in person, especially, people can see this, but your face you'll make a face that's just like very upset. And even if you can't see the person's face or they can't see your face, they can hear it. They can really hear it in your voice. They can hear that you're not, oh, you're upset, you're frustrated, you're not like okay with what's going on. And depending on how they're reacting and responding, they might interpret that in a way of, well, who are you to be upset with me? I have, you don't even know what I'm dealing with. And there can just be this immediate reactiveness in the other person. And that just compounds the whole issue into more of a tense, frustrating situation. So what may in your mind be a logical, practical ask of why aren't you just doing this might turn into you being constricted, being frustrated, being very clearly angry or disgruntled and not happy with this person. Now, what'll happen is, and you say, I have every right to, they're not doing that thing. And what the other person is doing is they're reacting to you. So their reaction might be frustrated or annoyed, or I don't want to do that, or why are you acting this way with me? And that furthers your frustration and everything. And then you just keep amplifying this. But if you stopped at the mirror the first time, when you recognized in yourself, you could go, this situation is causing me to feel frustrated. Why do I feel frustrated? What is it what is the mirror trying to show me right now? Instead of being frustrated or trying to understand why this person isn't doing this thing I'm asking them to do, why do I feel frustrated? Because let me give you an example. If you were to take this back to your first day of working, first week of working, wherever you are, maybe you interacted with the same person. Maybe the same thing played out. By the way, this might be a pattern that you notice with the same people, with the same projects. They keep doing the same thing that's pissing you off or bothering you or frustrating you or annoying you, whatever it might be. And until you see the pattern and break the pattern, you will continue to perpetuate this and you will continue to play this fun game with these people. But if you can break the pattern, you can actually reverse this. So when you take it back to like the first week that you started work there, if you had this exact same interaction that you had on this given day that was frustrating, you probably weren't that frustrated. You probably didn't even notice. You probably didn't even blame them or think much of it. And you're like, I guess they can't do this thing, or they're just not going to do this thing right now. They're busy. You probably gave them valid reasons. Even if they didn't tell you why, there may be many reasons that you create in your head that are very fair and understandable. And like, they might just have a lot on their schedule, or like whatever the reasons are that you give them grace for not doing this thing right now or doing it the way you want it to be done because you don't know as much or whatever the reasons you might have are. And you have to go, what is going on inside of me? Because that person is likely the same person that they were on the first day you started working there. If it's, you know what I'm talking about. If you're still working there and they've been working there at the same time, that you've been working there, maybe they've been there for longer. This person's still probably been the same person with their own patterns and behaviors and the ways they act. Nothing has really changed for them from day one to now, but you've changed. And what's happened is an old pattern has started to appear to show you something about yourself. And this experience is actually trying to just educate and inform you about that pattern, not to piss you off, not to frustrate you for the project, not to drive you crazy, but actually to educate. And now you guys can some people will hear this as I'm explaining it and kind of go, you're crazy. That's okay. I love you anyways. And you can think I'm crazy, but this has happened so much in my life, and that I've been really studying my own reality and other people's realities and how their experiences work. And it's just so true. And there's so much truth to this and so much validity to this from my own experiences and experimentation. I have to share this the way I'm explaining it. And whether or not you believe it or buy it, I tell you, experiment, play with it, test it for yourself. Because as you test this, I am certain that, depending on what your mirror is trying to show you, that many people will find this to be true. So when you are dealing with this person who is frustrating you, you're looking at, why am I frustrated? And being frustrated isn't an easy one to untangle, because sometimes with things like just extreme anger or extreme reactivity, like a trigger, there's often what's happening there is more like a truth is being shown to you, something you actually believe subconsciously. And the reason you're so reactive to it is because consciously you're saying, I absolutely don't believe it, but really subconsciously you do. And that one kind of sucks and is a bit kind of a big pill to swallow. But in this instance, it's not quite as straightforward. There's a little bit more unwrapping to do. So what I was observing, for example, in that situation was I am frustrated. And for me, the feeling of frustration tends to translate to something that I'm being shown that is upsetting to me that I am doing to myself currently. So let me break this down a little bit. A person is maybe not hitting the deadline. A person is like, so this is talking about the coworker. So I'm looking at this situation and the mirror is showing me someone is not delivering on time, or someone is not doing something that I've asked, which seems reasonable to me. But maybe, and then if I'm being honest with myself and with the situation, which I started to be honest with myself in this incident, I could already hear myself asking for something unreasonable and wanting something unreasonable. I stopped asking after I realized I was being unreasonable, but I started to recognize in that moment, as I was being frustrated, I am currently at that, before that, maybe I wasn't asking for something that seemed unreasonable, but I realized in that moment, given the time frame there was, I was asking someone to do something in a time that may be unfair to ask someone to do something. So I immediately stopped and backed off and recognized, okay, you have priorities, you have things your manager's asking you to do. It's not appropriate for me to cross a line. But it took me a little bit to get there. So I had to recognize, why am I frustrated? So when I broke it down layer by layer, I was seeing things playing out that the story in front of me is, I am asking for something that's a bit unreasonable of this person who's a nice person who does do their work. And if it's maybe in this instant not at a pace that I would like, I don't know what is going on in their life, their personal life, their professional life. And it's possible there's other things that are interfering with their ability to do this faster the way I want it to be done. And maybe, yes, there is a time crunch. I'm being pushed by other agencies or things to do something faster. But the reality is, I don't know what's going on in that person's life. No matter what I am being asked of or whatever is being pushed, this is a human being, and they're a good person. They have the right to have boundaries. And then I had to break it down a bit further, because I'm like, well, I'm not just frustrated because this person has boundaries and this person has, potentially other reasons that they can't meet this request or that they're being this way. So what is it behind that? Because it's never the surface. It's rarely the surface level thing that's your mirror is trying to show you. It's a much deeper mirror. It's like a microscopic mirror. Look deeper, really unpack it. So I had to go, okay, so I'm frustrated that this person is being this way. What is the mirror trying to show me? What is this story showing me? What is familiar to me in this story about myself? Either about something I've done to someone else or something that's been done to me. And in this instant, it was something that was done to me. And so I had, historically through life, had experiences where people would ask of me things that were unreasonable. Okay. And so it would be very frustrating and I would get upset, but I would often, this is where it's like doubles down. I would often beat myself up because I wasn't able to deliver, or I would deliver it in spite of having every reason not to, because I'm sick, hurt, exhausted, already doing overworked, but still force myself to do things that I didn't want to do. Because there's a few different reactions that a person could have depending on so in this instance, I still would do the work, even though I didn't have the capacity to the point of exhausting myself in my past. And so that is why the feeling of frustration is what I was seeing. However, because this was a suppressed thing in my unconscious, subconscious mind. So the way it's surfacing for me is through the feeling and emotion of frustration. However, if I had been someone who just failed to deliver and was like, let's say, people were pressing me and I was just like, I can't do it. I can't do it, guys. Like, I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I'm failing here. I'm just going to accept the fail. Not that anyone would ever be failing if that's really the situation. But in the example, what often would happen is a person would just feel hyper guilty that they couldn't do it. So in that situation, if the person historically has had a pattern of not showing up when being forced to do something in a timeline that's not fair, when they don't have the capacity, when it's a very unreasonable ask, and so their pattern would be feeling guilty. They would show up to the conversation with a different emotion with this same coworker who isn't delivering, because with a way that would feel, I don't know it off the top of my head right now. This is one I'd have to dig into, but it would not be frustrated. It would be a different feeling. But and potentially even an individual who continuously failed to meet an unfair request, who felt guilty, probably wouldn't even be in a position where they were asking someone to do this because they felt so guilty themselves. But that's a different story. Let's focus on the story that I experienced just for the sake of it, because that's the one I know the best. So in this exact experience, I was historically someone with a pattern who would do the work no matter what. I would always deliver. I would work all night long. I would not sleep if I needed to get something done. I would get up extremely early, like 2 or 4 in the morning, to do this thing, because I would feel too not okay and be so upset with myself and so frustrated. And I was so hypercritical of myself that I would not allow myself to fail to deliver, even though it was an unfair ask. So my whole self was subconsciously suppressing this understanding that I was frustrated, not with him. I was frustrated with myself. So in this one instance with the coworker, I was expressing frustration at the coworker. But the reality is I was feeling frustration that was suppressed emotion at myself for being this way to me, not at the person for what they didn't do. It was a story from my subconscious mind that was starting to surface, but I finally allowed to see the full story of the mirror is trying to show you you're frustrated and sick and tired of how you've been treating yourself for your whole life. This pattern you have of needing things to be done in an unreasonable. Now, to be fair, I don't generally ask people to do things that are unreasonable. I often will fight to defend someone who is being asked to do something unreasonable, and I will always do my best now to say I can't do this in this time frame. So I've become a much healthier person with that respect, and I definitely don't do this to other people typically consciously. In this instance, I caught myself, but I typically am always trying to be cognizant of other people's timelines. And so, but what this was trying to teach me, because it was a pattern I'd seen with other people in the past, where I'd get frustrated for the same situation. But the frustration again was not at the person, it was at myself for behaving this way to me, not necessarily to other people. I was frustrated that I wouldn't give myself a break. I was frustrated that I wouldn't. This is a very tricky, like, whirly kind of a mirror. So like, but I could not see in my subconscious mind that I was frustrated with myself for not giving myself a break without this experience to mirror it to me. And now you might go like, that's a really weird mirror. Yeah, it is a really weird mirror. Your reality is a weird mirror. There are so many different ways to interpret and to analyze the mirror that is your reality and what is being shown to you. And it all starts inside of you and what you're feeling. So if I were to have felt angry or pissed or sad or, helpless, then those would be teaching me something else about my inner reality. But I felt frustrated. And so what I was learning in that moment, from that mirror moment, was that I had been holding on to this resentment towards myself for not being reasonable with myself. And so as I recognize this pattern, and bring it to my conscious awareness, this is the part that's trippy. This other experience disappears. The experience of the person with the frustration and the experience. Now you can look at this in many different ways. So you could say, okay, logically, the reason it disappears is because my behavior and my emotions and my interactions change. And I could see in that moment, actually, that when I started to catch myself and let go of frustration and go, that's my problem. Why am I throwing that at you? You don't own this problem of frustration. I own the frustration with my stories and my subconscious mind. So I'm going to work on that. But when I stopped the frustration, I turned more human again and more compassionate and was able to be more thoughtful with the conversation to communicate the reasons we're asking for this, to communicate I respect their boundaries and I'm not demanding this. I'm asking for a prioritization of this if that is possible. With, you ask who you need to ask, you do what you need to do, you find out if it's possible. These are the reasons I'm asking for this and why we're being pressed for this. Can you help us? In a much more thoughtful and a curious way of, can you? Not what's wrong with you? Why won't you do this? But like, I see you. I see you're under pressure. I see your workload. I see you. I may not see all of the things you have going on, but I am trying to. So please help me. And I'm not demanding you to figure everything out this second and like put pressure on you. I'm just saying this is what we are dealing with for pressure. What is possible here? And the moment I let go of the frustration and the moment I had that like all of a sudden epiphany of like, oh my God, that's what this is showing me, and let it go, as like, let go of that story with respect to this person, meaning let go of the frustration, let go of that, be like, I will unpack this later. Clearly, this is my issue, but why? Okay, how do we solve this thing now? Or like, how do we move forward? And I could do it with a much less charged emotion, set of emotions. I could do it with a much less charged tone. I was much more, I softened completely because I recognized none of this frustration has to do with the individual or the project. And so you could say, okay, that person then was able to do found a way to do what I asked them to do, was willing to be supportive of the situation, found a way to do it and did it. And that issue has since vanished. But it, like, in one context, you could think that it vanished because I changed behaviorally. Now, there's other situations where it's been less of that, and I don't actually have an exact behavioral thing I can point to other than I shifted myself internally, and then somehow magically I didn't have that issue in my external reality anymore. But in this very specific instance, I could point to a behavioral change that likely shifted how the other person was willing to interact. And so that whole issue vanished. You can think it's very magical sometimes. Sometimes things just disappear. But like, meaning like the issue or the thing, or maybe suddenly a deadline gets extended. It happens in all sorts of very weird ways. But it's very much my experience, and that's why I share this, because I've seen it happen so many times. I can't think anything else but this is true. So I want you guys to consider these what I'm explaining and see if it fits for your reality, and if this particular mirror moment is something you've experienced before, and practice this with your own life's experience to see when you're getting frustrated with people. Maybe it's friends, maybe it's family, maybe it's coworkers. But when you have the term frustration arise, look deep into the mirror that is showing you something going on inside of you. Why are you frustrated? What is it that that person is doing that perhaps could be a behavior or trait that you own yourself, that you beat yourself up for? And that maybe you're sick and tired of beating yourself up for it. And maybe you could give yourself a little bit of a break sometimes. And maybe all that's happening is trying to teach you how to be a little less judgmental, harsh, mean to yourself, a little bit less critical of yourself, and a little bit more supportive of what is going to help you to thrive in life and to go through life with greater flow and ease. I'm going to leave it at that for now, and I'll have lots more fun of these like mirror moments to share with you. And I hope you guys will let me know, if it's helpful, or if there are certain mirror experiences in your own reality where you're like, what does it mean? If you're saying this is a mirror, what does that mean? And give me a little context if you can. And you can always share that in the comments. I'm always happy to try to break things down for you and help people unpack what it is that their own mirrors are trying to show them. But for now, take care, and I hope you enjoy the next videos.